Well, technology issues. Too funny. Welcome to this week's episode of the Nonprofit Marketing Mastery Power Session. This is a live video podcast where we bring on marketing industry experts and nonprofit leaders and innovators and really nerd out about the world of nonprofit leadership and nonprofit marketing. I always say, and Jason and I were chatting about this just before I got on, I always say, like, if you're looking for perfect, here's not it. If you're looking for actionable things to move your organization forward and to have a little fun, you've come to the right place. My name is Kelly. I'm the Nonprofit Marketing Nerd, and I am here today with a guest I've been very much looking forward to chatting with and helping you connect with. Jason Ellinger. He is the co-founder of Beard and Bowler. And a little bit about Jason, and you're gonna laugh, my dual monitor broke. So Jason and I are both having technology difficulties, and we are, I would say, so fortunate to be able to have him today, because he's actually, if you can see from the background, he's actually on set right now. So I'm so grateful that he was able to squeeze us in and drop some of what I think is amazing knowledge. If you follow me, you know I love nonprofit storytelling. I really think this is the way nonprofits can reach their target audience, transform their marketing. And Jason, I would say, is the expert of everyone I've seen out there in the space. What he's saying is actionable at all levels. And so I'm so grateful to have him here. Now, in terms of his background, he's the co-founder of Beard and Bowler. And he has a team of commercial filmmakers that do nonprofit storytelling through video. And I like a little bit, and I'm not going to share it now, but I'm going to force Jason to share a little about some of the outcomes, because their outcomes are amazing. Go look at their website, go check out Jason on LinkedIn. But one of my favorite, most amazing things is within 3 seconds, within 3 seconds of showing a video, Jason, what was the outcome? Do you remember off the top of your head that one video?
Well-to-do crowd in Connecticut, about 1,000 people. Hospital Foundation foot the bill for this big hospital, and 3 minutes after the video was shown, they hit their fundraising goal for the night, and then exceeded it the rest of the night. And that was it. That was night one. They kept using it. That's the cool part. But 3 minutes, that was it. Fundraising achieved.
Awesome. Okay, so I know people are here, and I see some people hopping on live. If you want to go ahead and say hello, especially I see those of you on LinkedIn. What?
Are we live?
We are live on LinkedIn.
Nice. Yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah. Go ahead and say hello. But Jason, I know for a lot of people, before we dive into like all the juicy goodness of what we can do as nonprofit storytellers, tell us a little bit about you, and particularly I want to know your founder's story. Like, why are you doing what you do now?
Okay. All right. Loaded question. Just life story. Here we go. Jason Ellinger, Beard and Bowler. We're commercial filmmakers that help nonprofits raise funds and awareness to the power of storytelling via video. In particular, our specialty is the mission moment video that you play right before the big ask at a gala. That's our bread and butter, to get the crowd warmed up and ready to donate. So that's what we do currently, and that's who are the target that we serve. I know there's a lot of other filmmakers who kind of do nonprofits on the side. Like, this is it. This is all we market to. This is all we do. We'll take on marketing agencies and a lot of their large clients occasionally, but like, they have to be on brand and on mission with us and with our mission. So background on me, I was a hard news photojournalist for about a half a decade. I started probably about 2007 with a video business, just in time for that recession. And things weren't working out being a small business owner with steady income, and which was fine for me being a bachelor. But when we were getting married, my wife and I'm like, I need a bit more stability. I don't know, maybe some health benefits or something would be cool, right? Yeah. So that's when I became a hard news photojournalist. I had the 4 a.m. to noon shift, and I was in some of the worst parts of Jersey and New York, just telling stories that were like in a flash. You were there, you had an hour, shoot, edit, get your sound bites back, right? Like, you couldn't spend any time, you just got the fluff, right? So, you know, fire, shooting, stabbings, murders, that was my life, 4 a.m. to noon every day. And I think where the breaking point for me was my second 11-year-old's funeral. And the reporter just kind of nudging me without even looking up. She's tweeting on her phone, which was her job. She's like, get the mother. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, make sure you get the mother. And to not to throw the news under the bus, there's a reason they do that, because you're so much. Another shooting in Newark, another shooting in Patterson. It's just white noise at this point, unless you have a sound bite from the mom or from somebody who is weeping. Like it moves it beyond a statistic. But the job was just so like, yeah, I gotta get sound, go interview the mom. As I'm standing there interviewing this weeping mom who just lost her kid, I'm like still kind of justifying it to myself. Like maybe somebody will see this. Maybe they'll learn. Maybe I won't be back here the next week, next day, the next month. I'd be back. It'd be teddy bears on the telephone poles, candles, cards. If you're in the hood around here, it's T-shirts stapled to a telephone pole with everybody's signature on it and a goodbye message on a white T-shirt, right? So it's funny to see different ways people mourn, but like that was day in, day out, and you just kind of become numb to it, and you're like, you get sent to an accident and you're like, oh, that's a fatal. You can tell when the sheet's out, how they have traffic stopped, like you can start telling this sort of stuff. And you get really jaded. And I'm like, what can I do that's going to make a difference? So I was in one of the worst parts of Patterson, New Jersey, where all the shootings and murders happened. And there was a guy by the name of Deacon Willie Davis who was introduced to me. And he was at the intersection of two of the worst areas of Patterson, the streets in Patterson. And he had, across from two burned down buildings, he took two empty plots of land and started a community garden there. Nothing would grow because the dirt was so toxic. He had to bring in his own dirt. Unique thing about Willie, he was 70 years old with a full-time job when he started doing this. And that man was an inspiration to me, the way he talked about what he did and why he needed to be there and mentor kids and show them how to work the dirt and the earth with their hands and just be a light in a very dark area. And I'm like, if I could tell that story, it would inspire so many others, like the soccer mom in the town next door, to do something similar for her community. And that became our mission, is to tell stories that are going to make a positive impact for anyone who views them. And it was important because we discovered our why at that point. And that is what guided us. And it's start with why. Simon Sinek, best book ever if you're thinking of starting. But we were like, okay, we got the why. How do we make a living? And we had no idea about that, but we had the core down and we built everything around that. And I think that's what made Beard and Bowler so special. And we still constantly have to come back to that, even when like large numbers are being thrown at us. With our why and our mission. That's how Beard and Bowler started. I brought on my business partner. We rebranded my existing video production company that was just kind of hanging on by a thread while I was still working at the news. And we were like, we're going to go after these stories where they contained nonprofits and bang for the buck nonprofits that have fundraisers because they can make their ROI that night and then exceed it. And having the event is just like the cost justification for like what could be your best fundraising tool ever. So that was
okay. So for
we're on an active set, so I'm just telling people.
Exactly.
Say hi, Jenna.
Hi. Live on LinkedIn and YouTube. Hi, Jenna. Too funny. So I'm going to go back, and I know you guys have a wonderful downloadable, I don't know the exact title, but ebook for how nonprofits can really like make money, have better galas. What does that look like? But one of the things that makes me cringe, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit later about what makes you cringe. One of the things that makes me cringe is when nonprofits bring all their constituents together, right? 800 people in a room for this huge gala, and they think that they have an obligation to basically read off their annual report, right? Every single statistics, and it's like a 30-minute, and you're almost bored, right? Like you're almost bored. And so the reason I invited you on is to make sure whatever nonprofits are watching this, do not do that. So I'd love to hear for those executive directors, like how can they tell a good story? How do you
I
feel?
have very strong feelings about this. And hey, Bobby James. Hey, Jeremy. Glad to see you on here. So the thing, most of our discovery calls with nonprofits are so long because they're largely educational, and it usually me reiterating two or three things. No, we're not going to interview all 27 of your board members. Nobody cares. 40th anniversary, great. Special logo at the end, maybe, then it leaves after. Nobody cares either, right?
Mhm.
What they care about is a story of impact. Where are their dollars going? How are you helping someone get from point A to point B? And that's not how you've helped 30 people do that. That's great. You've got some numbers there, but we need time to invest in one story and connect with one person. So if you have case study, case study, case study, like you're in and then you're out, you're in, then you're out, and then you're lost, right? So we follow one person's story of success. And very rarely does that change unless we have like a 10 or 11 minute like special anniversary piece, right? But we're usually, and all the stories are woven together. We've done that maybe once or twice successfully, right? But best way to approach it, one story. I was here with their help. I got here. And the nonprofit, when we insert the nonprofit into said story, they are inserted as a guide or an authority, the Yoda, the Obi-Wan. That's who is helping you get from point A to point B. I know you're doing great things, nonprofit. I know you're saving the world, but you're not the hero of this story. And sometimes that's hard to hear, especially when they feel like they need to play politics with board members or high net worth donors. Like they don't belong in there. And if they think they do, have a conversation with us and we'll straighten them out, because ultimately they want to do what's best for you, right? And we'll tell them why that's not best for you. So those things have no business in it unless they are the guide in the story, and their part is very minimal. And they're not, the other thing is, the third thing that I'd say we tell people the most, no one, stats and figures, information turns an audience cold. So if you're going to say 30% below the poverty line, or we fed X number of families, or this, that, and the other, like that information brings people cold. And the way to bring them, get them warmed up again is through storytelling. So you'll see it at events where people like, or even at church where you have a very nice a cappella song and then here's our announcements. Now people are cold again, right? Like there's this flow to events where it should go, and the same for video. Like you bring them to a point emotionally and don't dump so much information on them that just now their analytical brain is kicking in, right? Tell them a story. That's how we connect, and that's how we understand the world. Very little bits of authority and information sprinkled in throughout that story. And those are the most winning formulas that we have. And when you deviate from that, that's when you lose.
And you said one of the common ways that people, or reasons people deviate, is politics or external pressure. Is that what you're?
Yes.
Why you think?
Yeah, I literally had someone say, "Oh, so we have 27 board members and we got to get to them all." And I was like, "No, you don't." And we didn't end up working for them, but we try our best to explain it. You kind of need all decision makers there so they're on the same page, but like we try our best to explain why that doesn't work. Who's going to care about it? Board member. Maybe board member's family. They might even be bored of that board member by then, but we usually tell people that need to have board members. Board members are your second conversation. This video serves one purpose, and it's not to show how many people you've served or what the information is or to play politics. It's to get people moved emotionally enough so that they're ready to take a next step. And that next step could very well be having a conversation with a board member on how to get involved, especially if you actually have an active board and they're showing their people this, which they should be doing. This their fundraising tool too, right? Like, look at what we do. Like, it should get them excited as well.
Right.
But it should get them, the video just has one job, get them emotionally moved enough so they're ready for an action. Visit the website, volunteer, donate, get involved, have a conversation with the board member.
Add that zero to your donation check. If they were to fundraising, add that extra zero.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm big on the how do you get someone to add a zero approach. I do think, Nonprofit Marketing Nerd, we talk about a goosebumps test. And I would suspect that 100% of everything you create at Beard and Bowler passes the Goosebumps test, right? It walks you somewhere where you're, like you said, emotionally open. Have you had any tests where you're like, oh, this isn't quite passing? Like, what am I missing? And like, what are those storytelling things that sometimes you even see as a creative that you're like, this is, when you get into it, you're like, maybe I should approach it this way, or this story is missing. Yeah,
all the time. Last week. So my original area of expertise was editing, and I had to become a really good editor because I wasn't a great shooter or a great camera op. So I had to become really good to cover up my mistakes, right? So editing became my strong suit. My business partners is storytelling, but with paper edits and words and transcripts. And now we just hire, like, my whole crew's out there handling the shoot right now without me, right? They just know what they're doing. But the thing that we see in editing a lot is they're telling a story and they pick a poppy corporate-y beat well, yeah, it's happy. We've got to showcase a happy story. And we're like, false. We need to bring them in with a problem. That's how we hook them. We state it usually in a cold open. You hook the audience that way. And then there's tension. And the music needs to reflect that tension. Down to the color correction should reflect that tension, all the way up until the very end. So tension is the key to storytelling. A good problem to hook them, and then tension throughout. And you spend 80-90% of your story in the tension, because if you notice, as soon as resolution happens, we check out. Roll credits. And I actually did an informal study on this. I call it the problem with Pixar, because I have a 4-year-old and now a 3-month-old. So there's a lot of Disney in our house. So you want me to share some of these numbers of Disney?
Yeah.
Okay, so Monsters, Inc., by the time the villain or the main problem disappears and they're into credits, 8 minutes and 20 seconds. And that's one of their longest. And that's a very small fraction of an hour, 2-hour movie, right? Wreck-It Ralph, 6:15. Toy Story 2, 4:05. Up, remember that 20-minute intro that just broke your heart, but yet made your character relatable? 3 minutes, 59 seconds till they wrote credits. Tangled, 3:36. Finding Dory, 3:32. Just started with Zootopia, 3:31. Finding Nemo, 2:28. And my favorite, the original Toy Story, there is a whopping 1 minute and 45 seconds of end that nobody will remember, because Buzz and Woody drop in through the sunroof of the car and the problem's resolved. There's a whole other scene where Andy's moved into his new house and Woody and Buzz are sitting there, and Woody says, what could be worse than a Buzz Lightyear? And you hear a puppy barking in the background, and they're like, oh, that's how the movie ends. Nobody remembers that. You know why? Tension was released. And that was 0.5% of the whole movie, right? So like, these are the literal masters of storytelling, Disney, Pixar, in using this and infusing this in their storytelling. So this is what we try to replicate with our real people storytelling. Introduce the problem, hold attention with every tool possible that you have at your disposal, color, soundtrack, and do not resolve until the very end, because people will check out and you may lose them halfway through the video, 3/4 of the way through the video, and you need them at the end. And when we started following this formula, it worked so well. We had a woman who was a former addict and got two of her kids taken away. I had an editor who just was brand new, and he didn't have many B-roll options or visual guides for the story. So he started dotting her and her kids throughout the story. And the problem was, even that relieved too much of the tension. Like, oh, I got my kids taken away, but you're seeing, right? So I took it through a re-edit, and I started incorporating some drone, power lines, general street shots. That we had a shot of her, we cropped out her kids. And at the end, she says, I got clean, I got a job, and I got my kids back. And there's one shot, all this footage of kids that we had, her and her kids, there's one shot of her kid coming, running into her arms. And it worked so well that people didn't even hear the one line she had left, which is, this place is where hope begins, because they were standing up and applauding as soon as that tension was released. And it was at that point where we're like, okay, how do we do this every time? Holding on. So
See that you telling the story just passed the goosebumps test. I was like, wow, that is amazing. And like, I didn't even see the visuals, right? I didn't even see the visuals.
Yeah, that's it. And it's just like those simple tweaks that I do when I come in with the editors that come in, and it's change the soundtrack, hold the tension, problem till the end, and add space. This took me about 7-8 years to figure out how to articulate to somebody else, because I'd let people get it to 80%, then I'd come, let me re-edit. And I could not articulate this for nearly a decade of what I did that made it magical and gave it goosebumps. And it was literally just stop doing things so fast. They just said something that carries weight. And that's when I knew this. Don't go into the next soundbite. Stop. Let it breathe a little bit. Let people absorb that. Let it flow. Let the music crescendo, and then go on to your next soundbite. 2 or 3 dramatic pauses in there, especially if you have them like looking at camera, like, yeah, I'm validating this with my head nod, like that's the magic. That's the secret sauce that's like very hard to understand. And it took me 8 years to articulate it, but now this team is doing it like every other time. Wow. Those are the 3 things that make it magic.
Jason, we have a question for you, but I'm going to tell you that reminds me of Leon Lee. He's a poet that talks so much about the meaning in the pauses. And it seems like that's a lot of what you have played with and perfected in the last 8 years. Super cool. Jeremy does have a question that I wanted to make sure that we could answer. And then I have a couple more questions, and I want to make sure that I only claim 25 minutes of your time. And I want to make sure that we don't hold you that much later, because I know you're on set. Is the call to action after the release or during the tension?
Okay, so call to action is at the very end. So typically what happens is we introduce a problem, and then we stay in that problem. We introduce a guide who gives them a plan, and then calls them to action. Typically, in this case, it's a nonprofit that's the guide, and one of their clientele that is the hero of the story. And that's where you want to position yourself, because the hero is not the most relatable or stable. The guide is always the one who is stable. So that's where your business, your nonprofit needs to be. We have the guide give them a plan, call them to action, and then the hero says, and that's when I knew, and I got up and I changed my life around, and the music starts to shift a little bit. And then they say, and I did this, and I did this, and now I'm good. And then at that point, it's slow fade to white or cut to white, usually a white background, black text. And it's a very simple change lives, save lives, donate today. Something like boom, boom, boom in 3. That's usually we set right to the beat of a music, but like problem resolved, slow fade out on their face as they're like still like absorbing some of their own words, right? Those are the best. And then boom, 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 3-part call to action. No logo, nothing. It's your call to action that's important. Logo and everything else comes after that, but people aren't paying attention much after that resolution. You can keep them a few seconds longer, Jeremy, if you keep that music going and then do your call to action right to the beat of that music, because it lets people know it's not really done yet. So that's your best chance of doing it. But sometimes people are just like sitting there like, what do I do next? So they're just kind of stuck on that. And that's when you're like, this is what you do next. Go here, subscribe here, donate here, help us change lives. Or maybe something not as like direct as give us money, but like, this is where change happens. Get in something like that is, and those are important. You may want to hire a professional copywriter to work yours out. It's not just a mission statement all the time, because they were written in 1970 and you haven't updated it since, right? So we're a professional copywriter and have them maybe come up with like boom, 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 2-3 max of call to actions.
Awesome. Well, do you have any video examples that we can watch? If it's okay, I think there's someone else from Beard and Bowler that's joining, and I know there's some right. Do you have any video examples?
Megan, I remember you, Megan. What industry? What nonprofit? And then I can send you, or I can send them to the chat. But we have our Vimeo just surpassed 4,000 clips, so there is a lot to sift through. So if you tell me an industry, I can send you the specific examples. Otherwise, Sid, if you just send beardandbowler.com, that's some of our best work.
Awesome. So we'll get those dropped and over to you. But Megan, we do want to know, please leave in the comments, what industry are you in, so that they can make sure you can see things that are reflective of what you're working on. So Jason, I only claimed that I'm already over. So if you have 3 more minutes, if that's okay.
I got 3 more minutes. Awesome. I think it's a lunch break, so I can hang out.
Okay, cool. There are questions that I ask every single Nonprofit Marketing Mastery participant. The first one is, what's one thing all nonprofits do in marketing that makes you cringe?
Just one.
You can just keep dropping them. That's okay too.
There's a lot of times they don't follow our advice, where they're like, this may be too out there. I don't know if people are ready for this. Maybe we don't want to cold open. Maybe we want to play it safe. Maybe we want to do things. And they don't understand that there are certain people that are there for you and will watch whatever you put out, right? But who you're trying to reach is somebody who doesn't know you. And you're competing with the same audience that Pepsi and Nike and Apple have, right? It's the same audience, people that are there, and especially people of high net worth, they buy from all those people too. So that's the attention that and how does Nike get your attention? It's typically with a story. Those are their best marketing campaigns. Same thing with Apple, and you'll see them deviate. There's some that they're doing branding, and there's some that but the ones that perform best are always story and storytelling. So if you can incorporate real people storytelling, then that's when you've made the biggest difference.
Awesome. And then we're going to circle back around videos for community foundation, community development is what.
Okay. So off the top of my head, Sid, if you wouldn't mind sending the Norwest Cap demo to the chat, and then also the Bridge PSA. The Bridge is an organization that is basically a double wide trailer in the parking lot of Irvington High School. And there is, the way it was explained to us, like, when you come here, don't wear colors. I'm not talking blue and red. I'm talking like all sorts of colors, because the gang activity is that bad. Even the good kids have to come to school strapped because they fear for their lives, right? So this is the area that we're walking in with $50,000 worth of equipment, right, to this double wide trailer to interview people. And we were able to do a video for them to start. They were able to secure $1 million in grants using this video at the end of their grant applications. And they also secured a specific grant just for video. And when we were able to do that, we were able to spend some time with the kids there, get them involved in the process, and actually come alongside them until they were comfortable. So when Sid sends this to the chat, hopefully he sends it to the chat, you'll see the kids in their own words, not scripted, just prompted by questions, answering the importance of violence and why is it important to address the issue of violence. And we were in the community with real high school kids, and they lit up and they nailed it. And it turned out so beautifully, and it was 100% funded by a grant, which is like the coolest thing that I'd like to see nonprofits working with grants or with sponsorships with video. And then it's like double whammy, like you get both ends. You get a free video, and then you can use that to start raising funds. So yeah. Okay. Sid said he's unable to send links, so we can DM or post them somewhere.
Yeah, I'll drop this one. I don't know what's happening. I'll drop one while Jason is answering the next question. I'm going to see if I can help Sid out. The next question, what do you wish more? And you already talked about maybe I'm going to oversimplify, person-centered storytelling, or following the storytelling arc of a specific person. What else do you wish more nonprofits did in their marketing?
So social media is great, right? But if you look at the statistics, there's a very small percentage of donations compared to overall that come from social media, right? So while it's great, and we actually have snackable content that we do in our packages. It's not the be all end all, and people put a lot of emphasis on it, right? So take your marketing material and use it for your grant applications, use it for your one-on-one meetings with your high net worth donors. Don't forget to set up those one-on-one meetings, empower your board with these fundraising tools and storytelling. Don't just lean on social media and hope for a few likes, you have to actively pursue it. I think one of my favorite stories was a nonprofit who had total life rehabilitation. So if they were homeless or addicted to drugs, they'd take you in, clean you up, give you a place to stay. But they found that people were relapsing because they had no purpose after they were clean. It's been so long, right? So they started a culinary school. And the culinary school would train them to get job placements and gave them a purpose again. And they found the relapses went way down. So they had a relationship with some celebrity chefs in the area, but the relationship was closed due to a bad experience, or stuff happens in nonprofits, right? They took the piece, the one that I told you about with the lady who had lost her kids and then got clean, got her kids back, got a job was in one of these restaurants. They took her story to the chefs where the relationship was closed. The chef saw it, broke down, got emotional, and said, how can we help? And that's where the nonprofit was smart. And they ended up starting a brand new fundraising event called The Tasting. He got all of his chef friends involved. And it was like 10,000 square feet overlooking New York City at this venue, everything donated. All of these chefs brought their best food and best everything. I don't know, it's $350 a ticket. It raised $200,000 its first year as an event, and is still an event to this day. All because they were able to take that to a meeting, make an emotional connection with somebody that wasn't like a high net worth donor, but like very well connected, and used it strategically to create like something brand new, like in collaborations like we wouldn't have even thought of, right? So like think of your micro marketing as opposed to like, you're like, let's throw it on social, get some ad spend, like that's great, but like don't forget those one-on-one conversations.
It's so funny. And I'm like, Jason, I'm offended as a social media person. No, it's one of the biggest things. We're like, well, social media, especially for fundraising, like you're talking about, is not the primary, like that should not be the first place you're spending your time and efforts. It should be individual conversations.
It's important because we have social media packages. It's important, but like, don't just throw it out there and hope it, like take those pieces and bring them with you. Have a strategic plan for release, so yeah.
Yeah, so I will say I have a final question for anyone. I think Megan and someone else. I will make sure that those are dropped not only in the comments afterwards, and I know Sid's getting them to me, but if you're looking at videos, I'll also drop them in the description, so you can always go back and find them, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Jason, final question. I know for a lot of people here, I know we have a lot of people watching, not only live, but on the YouTube that might be more from the Midwest and not on the East Coast. How do people find you? How do people work with you? What would be next steps if they're like, that guy's up to something?
Okay, so it's funny because we just launched a national YouTube ads campaign on social media, right? So we are getting, I think Mother's Day, we got like 20 something leads from all over the nation, right? So what we've done is we started hiring local. In every city that we work with, we hire local. And then that saves us travel of only having to fly one, maybe two people out. So we're able to, because we know dollars are always an issue, right? So we're building up our team nationwide, including the Midwest. We just got back from Minneapolis, is that Midwest? Minnesota? All right, kind of, right? Engaged for Good conference. So we have people all over coast to coast for this. The important part is that they're following our story structure and process of how we do things, and just having, you can find a GWC or a guy with camera almost anywhere, right? Who knows how to light, who knows how to frame, get your audio in there, everything in focus, which is a skill in of itself. But what you really need is storytellers and somebody to have a process. So because of technology, we're able to come in almost anywhere on a teleprompter and do our interview process, right? Which is the important part. So that's how we've been able to scale nationwide. It was born out of COVID, believe it or not. I had a big shoot with NPR. I tested positive and I couldn't make it to Boston for this shoot. And we kind of innovated and invested in a teleprompter, and that changed everything for us. Like, it made us wherever we need to be, right?
So So cool.
So they can find us, beardandbowler.com. You can check me out, LinkedIn, Jason Ellinger on LinkedIn. And we've got a newsletter. We've got YouTube shorts that come out every week, LinkedIn content 5 days a week. Facebook, I think our Facebook fan page has a bunch of stuff, and we're about to launch Instagram again. So yeah, a lot going on. You can find me almost anywhere.
I don't know. No, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. Again, I know that so many people that are watching this live or watching the replay are so grateful for the storytelling arc is what I'm going to simplify it as, but like really putting like tangible things people can walk away and use. Maybe they can't partner with you yet. That's a good first step, is to use some of your brain. So thank you so much for your time, and I will see you later.